Hi, and welcome to Comic Talk. I'm Joshua.
And I'm Drew.
This is our pull list review for October 6th.
That was fun.
All right, so this week we have 5 titles, including our continued search for things from DC that we don't hate. They include Midnighter and Apollo #1, The Flintstones #4, Shade the Changing Girl #1, and then we go over to Marvel for Doctor Strange #12, #1, Blood in the Aether kind of thing. It's Marvel Now #1, but issue #12.
They have both on there. That's interesting.
Yeah, 12/1. So, I mean, that's Marvel taking it to a whole new level.
It's number 12 and number 1.
They're trying to hit all the keynotes there, continuing the numbering and starting it over. It's Paper Girls #10 is the other thing we're going to do. So let's start off with our continued search for DC proper comics that we enjoy. This is Midnighter and Apollo #1 by Orlando Blanco and Fajardo Jr.
So we start off with kind of a throwaway villain plot kind of deal just to introduce Midnighter and Apollo. And then we get some little slice of life. And then Bendix is back.
So I really enjoyed the Midnighter series that Orlando was writing previously to this. And this is pretty much just a straight-up continuation of that.
Sure.
You did not read that, right?
No, I read one of the Authority runs that was written by Brubaker, and I did enjoy that.
Cool. You mentioned in your little description here how it has a throwaway fight, kind of a throwaway setup at the beginning. And that's kind of been a central thing that's happened a lot in Midnighter.
In the Orlando run, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
In the Orlando run that this is a continuation of, where a lot of the setup and teardown of like the big fight sequences and the superhero-y stuff he does is really condensed down to just showing how thoroughly he just kicks everything's ass, you know, and then it just goes back to him and his struggles to like balance his superhero life with his home life and trying to like, you know, be a person, really.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I really liked about it is, it was throwaway and stuff, but there were issues that arose in the first thing that, you know, go into the slice of life thing. He's like, you know, do you really have to, you know, be like this? And that was probably my favorite part.
Right. I really liked this. This is the first DC Rebirth proper thing, which, although, by the way, if you look, it doesn't say DC Rebirth on it, so I don't know if that, I guess it counts, but they're afraid to brand this Rebirth, apparently, even though I thought it was really good. But yeah, I agree, that's like my favorite element of it, is that it's not wasting a lot of time with the superheroics and all that. It's just, it's one of these things that we tend to like, where that's kind of the setting and then the character story unravels out of the fact that they're in this world.
I will have to say it's a bit more concentrated on that than, say, Jupiter's Legacy was. I mean, in Legacy, it was really just a few panels and then, okay, let's get back to other stuff. Whereas this, I mean, the conflict and action sequences do probably take up about 2/3 of the book. But that's a lot better than all of it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, definitely. And I have to say that I actually like the conflict that happens. Like, the artist does a really cool job of giving us some cool fight scenes that was reminiscent. To me, it was reminiscent of what we're getting over at Marvel in Karnak, in that the choreography,
visual
of it,
storytelling,
you know, is really good, and it's not. There's not a story as much as it's just like a fight choreography that is actually really enjoyable to watch.
But that is a story.
Of course, yeah. And it does show you a lot about who he is as well, and how ruthless he is, and just how robotic and direct, you know. And it helps inform you about the character when you're reading what comes after, when, you know, he's laying in bed, you know, or having dinner and trying to be charming and funny, and then you see him when he's in action and he's just this like brutal robotic killing machine.
Yeah. I remember Yeah, looking at the fights, well, he jumps into a train. That's probably not a big spoiler. But yeah, he just like fucking spears these two dudes together.
Yeah.
When I looked at it, I was like, holy fuck.
Right.
That's pretty intense.
Right.
Yeah, so I like it. Yeah, I agree. It was a hit for me as well.
Cool. Good deal. Let's move on. Let's talk about another DC title. This is, Hanna-Barbera's The Flintstones. Mm-hmm. This is Russell Poe and Chuckry.
Chuckry. This one's probably issue of the week for me. It was so funny. It's just dealing with the idea of marriage. So the setup is prior to this, they just had a sex cave. And now, they're trying to... Well, there's this new thing going around where people are getting married and stuff. And they go on this marriage retreat. And, yeah.
Right.
There you go.
This was one of the early pitches I heard Russell talking about in an interview that
mentioning it like a while.
Made me go like, wow, that sounds like it's going to be really funny.
Yeah.
And this, I agree, this really delivers. This is so crammed, packed, full of like clever twists, and not like Shamalama Ding Dong twists, but like twists on concepts. It reverses a lot of societal quirks that we have, right? And really what he's doing is he's making an allegory about like gay marriage and interracial marriage, things like that. And
which actually comes up in it, to some degree. But yeah, this just reminds me of like Prez. I mean, it's just so full of just funny, like you said, funny, clever, quirky little things.
Yeah, every panel has like a good joke in it. Either in the dialogue, just a really great delivery that makes like... I read it and I just feel the delivery like I'm watching a really good episode of Archer or, Rick and Morty or something. I just really feel the jokes are so on point with how they're delivered by the different characters. And even just how they're spaced out on the page to really flow through these good bam, bam, 1-2 delivery punches. It's so cram-packed. But even in the panels where there's not like a dialogue joke, there's some great sight gag. It's like constant, just overwhelming you with stuff to where I feel like I could read it again and catch a bunch of jokes I missed.
Probably. And I don't think we should overshadow the very heartfelt moments, because there were a couple in there. When Fred... The one that comes to mind is when Fred was talking about his apprehensions with the whole marriage thing. Like, I read that, and I was like, wow, that's really fucking powerful. Yeah. And, of course, the next bubble you read, makes you laugh, But it's nice that there's, those little serious, heartfelt bits in there just to kind of, like, round it out.
Agreed. Yeah, good stuff. I'm loving the Flintstones more and more, and I feel like he's really getting the groove here and starting to figure out what he wants to do with it. And, I hope this goes for a while. It's really great.
Yeah.
This now, it's okay that Prez is done for me because this is really picking up and picking up a lot of the...
I would have liked to see the other 6 issues of Prez, but I'm happy that this is out because this sort of satiates that need for me.
Yeah, good stuff. If you're not reading the Flintstones, you should think about... Just pick one of them up. Pick this new one up, number 4.
Yeah, was it $2.99?
Yeah, 2 or 3. I mean, I'm not sure. $3.99. It's $4, but it's totally worth it, and you will be hooked. You'll have a new thing that you'll put on your pull list. I guarantee it.
This is actually good.
Yeah, just straight up.
Believe it or not.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to another Young Animal title. This is DC's Young Animal imprint. This is Shade the Changing Girl. It's Cecil Castellucci, Marley Zarcone, and Kelly Fitzpatrick.
That's some East Coast sounding motherfuckers on that.
Yeah.
So I guess there's like this alien that wants to check out, Earth and stuff. So decides to take over this girl's body that was in a coma that apparently nobody liked.
The basic premise is that there's a coat that you put on in the alien world, and it lets you travel somewhere else and inhabit someone else. But in the process, it sort of makes you go mad because it's so hard to keep your brain in the person right. And so with that, we get this really cool chance to just play. Like, I feel like this is just a playground for the artist and the writer to just do a lot of kooky, weird stuff. And I think it
weird as shit.
It's super weird, and I think it mostly delivers on that. It's maybe a little try-hardy in places, you know?
Yeah, that's the vibe I got from it. Like, I mean, I'm down to read weird shit, you know, but this seemed just a little bit contrived in places. It is a #1, so, you know, they got to kind of grow into it, and they have to set the tone of the book and everything. I wouldn't be surprised if it gets better, but I would like to see it get better if we're going to read it long term.
Right. I feel like the art in this is sort of, it's almost like Mike Allred or Jack Kirby on acid. You know?
I can see that.
It's like just random elephants and skeletons and
Little
rotting people
blips
and
shit.
strange random Kirby crackle and psychedelic colors, just for no real reason other than that she's not quite inhibiting the mind yet. So it's like her, like this is what I got out of it was, you know, that her
Visual cortex.
her faculties aren't working properly yet, so everything's just warped and crazy for her constantly, which is a fun premise. I like the idea, and the writing seems okay. I like all the ideas here and all the things that are coming together, but I didn't love the issue. If that,
Yeah, that makes sense. The impression that I got from it is maybe vision of like extra dimensional beings or something like that people don't see. Whichever way it goes. I mean, I think that's clever in and of itself, but the issue didn't really keep me hooked
Right.
overall.
right? I'm kind of neither here nor there yet, but I'm still into checking out more to see where it goes.
Sure.
Cool. Let's hop over to our one Marvel book. This is Doctor Strange by Aaron Bacallo, Townsend, and Fabella.
The creepy pain creature is back, as well as its arch nemesis.
Yeah, so one thing I noticed in here pretty early on is Bacallo isn't sticking on his, you know, he's not like resting on his laurels on how he's doing the art on this. He's experimenting with how he wants this to look, which is really cool, you know, because we've had it for 12 issues now, and most of it's been Bacallo.
Sure.
And we've loved his work, but I mean, you know, after a while you get used to it, and I like the fact that he's kind of branching out and trying some different styles here.
It's kind of weird to think of this one as experimental, because his style before, by all accounts, was more experimental. Like there was more weird shit going on, but in the context of that, this is really experimental, and that it's pulled back in a lot of ways, and then it keeps a lot of the elements from before, little wacky shit.
Right, and I think
So-
the weird it makes sense story wise because like the world of magic is toned down, and so when there is something magical, he goes back more to that other style and like weird, and it makes a really cool juxtaposition, I thought.
Yeah, so it's really well thought out. Yeah.
So story wise, what do you think?
Okay-ish.
Yeah.
Again, like the first 4 issues of this, I think were just so good that I'm still waiting for a return to that, and I don't think we've quite gotten it yet.
I do like some of the stuff that's going on here. I liked his face-off with Dormammu, where, you know, you would expect some crazy thing, 'cause it's like, you know, crazy sorcerers against each other, but he just comes to his house and knocks on the door. Like, you know, there's a lot of clever things that Jason Aaron is doing here that's a lot of fun and still gets a good laugh out of me. You know, I loved that. And then he's like, okay, let's go outside, you know, and they like just go outside and he throws an apple at him, like, you know, or there's a lot of little things like that. Or when he's fighting that thing and he's chewing the gum and he blows the bubble and you're like, what the fuck is that about? You know, I laugh when he blows the bubble and then you find out there was a reason, you know.
Yeah, but it seems so out of place at the time.
Right.
You know, which is great. And, you know, it has been part of the charm of the Jason Aaron writing of this, is that some shit just seems so far removed from the Doctor Strange that most people know. And that's the fun of it.
Right, I agree. Still a good read. Just losing a little bit of its luster, though, for me. It's still pretty good, though. I liked it.
Well, it lost a lot of the luster, and I think it's gaining it back.
You're right.
Yeah.
Because it was getting a little
Those last
dogged.
like 3 or 4 empirical issues were like, just come the fuck on.
Yeah. And
Wrap it up.
I think I'm with you there. This is starting to be a return to form, or at least a moving into something else that's a little more interesting again. Well, then let's finish it up with Paper Girls number 10, beautiful as always cover. And what's this about? Oh, wait, this is Vaughn, Chang, Wilson, and Fletcher.
Mm-hmm. So, true to Brian K. Vaughan's style, we start to get a grasp on what's happening, and then they get literally thrust into this other fucking place, and now we're not back to square one, but we're pretty close as far as knowing what the hell's going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they really just... Does much really happen here? I mean, not really, right?
Kind of.
It's such a hard book to try to synopsis, isn't it? Because one, it's very Brian K. Vaughan linear storytelling, to where like each little piece isn't much in the context of like trying to explain what happens in it, but in the context of the story that's being told, each little piece is really vibrant and important and has its own feel. But when you're trying to describe it to someone else in a short synopsis, it's like, well, they get in a helicopter and fly to a thing and then jump in it, right?
Yeah. And there is a distinctly circular kind of feel to the story so far. It's like we keep making like little loops back. It's like one of these deals,
right? Yeah.
Which I think is neat, because that allows them to, expand on concepts that he just like hinted at before and stuff. But yeah, as far as giving a synopsis beyond that, if you got one, let us know.
Yeah, right. Artistically, I have to talk about the art, because as soon as I opened it up, I was really impressed with the color palette. It's really gorgeous this time. There's all of these beautiful pinks and greens and blues that just really blew my mind when I was looking through it the whole time. And then when they finally kick in with all this green, it just pops right at you. It's really awesome coloring that really I felt artistically took over the issue. And even really just tonally, like what really hit me the most was just the coloring palette. Like the color palette was so incredible.
It's almost like sort of retro in a way. Like it gives you that sort of like 80s, early 90s kind of feel, just because of like the particular shades of each color that they use and stuff. So again, a lot of attention to craftsmanship, I think, in the artwork in this book.
Yeah, it reminds me of a lot of like the like California T-shirts, with the blues and pinks and greens. Like it was a very conscious choice to kind of put you in that feel, even though there's a bunch of crazy shit going on. Like somehow it all feels a little laid back, right?
Nickelodeon,
a little soft and easy, But yeah, it continues to be really cool. But I agree, this was one of those issues where you're almost starting over again, trying to figure out what's going on. So a little bit frustrating, but I think in a good way. Like a story like this, that's fun to be like, what?
Yeah. I'm sure in like 2.5 years when it all wraps up, we'll still think highly of it.
I think so too. It just continues to be more interesting in my opinion. Yeah. Cool. All right. That wraps it up. That's everything we're talking about today. We do have the episode that was going to come out before this one that is now coming out next week. So you can look forward to that. And that was... What is that going to be titled? Do you know?
No. I mean, it's going to be about, creators and the fans and shit. It'll be the next video. Yeah, so... I mean, that's the easy way to figure it out. The one that comes after this one is the one we're talking about. Yeah. So we're all over the place. You can check for us in a bunch of different spots. Just type our name into things and see if it comes up. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, keep in mind that we do have podcast version. You can find that on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, SoundCloud. We're all over in the podcasting world. And if you're listening on the podcast, which more and more of you are, and we thank you for that. That's pretty cool to see. If you're listening there, you can always check out our ugly mugs in black and white on YouTube. There's not much to be gained there. But you can do it. There's a couple visual jokes here and there.
A few that you're missing. And there's also comments. It tends to be the comments show up on YouTube. So if you're interested in what other people have to say to us or about us, check out the YouTube and take a look at that.
Escalator.